Welcome, welcome everybody. I am Barutti Carl Alexander, and yes, this is the Sourceseeker. This is the Sourceseeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 internet station in the world. And let me say, yes, it is not easy. A little theme music that we have a little bit. Yes, again, I am Barutti Carl Alexander, and yes, I'm the Sourceseeker. And this is the Sourceseeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 internet station in the world. I am your host, and this is, again, the Sourceseeker Hour. And let me explain what a Sourceseeker is. A Sourceseeker is one who has to express the stirring of their soul in whatever form it is available. If they don't get a chance to express themselves, they become sick, they become bottled up. A Sourceseeker, he seeks to connect to the divine spark within him or herself and seeks to shine that bright light from a lampstand and to use that bright light to brighten a better humanity, just in their own circle or in their community or more broadly. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. We're going to have a great show today. Sourceseeker, we discuss political events, we discuss current events, we discuss all kinds of things that are going on in the world. It's relevant, it's profound. Listen every week. Again, we're going to have a great show. My guests today are the top political candidates in the community. We have political candidates from the state board education. We have political candidates for county commissioner, and we have consultants, and we have different political persuasions going on here. One thing I wanted to talk about, what makes politics so interesting? It's certainly interesting with all the things going on in the Trump world today and so forth, and it was interesting in the Obama world. But let's get to who our guests are today. Our guests are candidate for County Commissioner, Miss Arnetta Murray, County Commissioner for Brazoria County. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. All right. Our guests are Brother Lawrence Allen Jr. For State Board of Education. How you doing, brother?
I'm fantastic, and thank you for having me today.
Yes, sir. And then Brother Warren Houston, a lawyer and the host of Know Thyself. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to have a very interesting and a powerful conversation about politics. So many things going on in the political world. When I grew up, I must confess, a Jehovah's Witness. And I was told, don't get involved in politics. Don't get involved in the outside world or the political world and so forth. And I said to myself, but they the ones that's making the decisions. So if you want some things to happen, you have to get involved a little bit. Let me say this. My father was on the State Board of Education. He was on back in the 80s and so forth, and he had some very meaningful things that he accomplished, such as no pass, no play. A lot of people held that against him, but he didn't care. He thought that was very, very important and so forth. My father was the Honorable Raymond Alexander, and I somewhat follow in his footsteps. But I learned that politics and education are very, very important things, and you must get in it. You must pay attention to it, or you'll let it control you, or you'll let it have impact over your life. So this is the realm of discussion that we are going to cross upon. We are going to talk about many things in the political world. I want to say this. There's so many different labels: Democrat, Republican, right, left, hardliner, appeaser, so many different kinds of labels: conservative, liberal. What does that all mean? Does that have a meaning for our communities, our small circles, or are these people just trying to, become important upon those names and so forth? But we're going to get into that. I want to know what that meaning of those particular terms has as far as the significance in my life and my circle's life. Okay, we're going to get into it, and I first want to ask the question, in the political realm, in education, the biggest thing going on now is the school shootings. That's one of the biggest things. I saw something that I thought was very profound, trying to figure it out. Our last show, we talked about those things. But if we had a fence, and then at the end of that fence, you know how they have it in the prison, and now a lot of people say we shouldn't have that environment for our kids, but I'd rather my kids be safe than have a better quote-unquote environment. Ms. Murray, what do you say about that kind of idea?
Basically, I don't think that a fence is warranted. I don't think it's needed. Now, do I think that we need to have some metal detectors? Yes, but a fence, no. We need to, I think, educate our teachers, not with guns. We don't need to use guns because they want to give us guns. I don't want that. But we do need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. How? Personally, I think we should have retired military veterans coming in, as well as having some type of metal detector that allows us to ensure that kids coming in are being, patted down, if you will. But I don't think we should have a fence. No, I don't agree with that at all.
From my perspective, as I said, I'm more concerned about the safety as opposed to, because there are so many different mindsets. In those schools that these events have happened, these were rich schools.
Absolutely.
They were rich schools, so if they could happen in that school, they can happen in many different kinds of situations. Brother Warren, what you say about that?
I don't have a problem with the guns, and the reason's being said that we have to remember what the Bill of Rights was for. The Second Amendment, which allows American citizens to carry guns, was placed in the Bill of Rights to protect the citizens from the government, and that's what we have to realize. So in education, a school is a place of education, of training for our children, and so when you leave those doors open for anyone to walk in and there's no one there armed to straighten the situation out, then you can get a massacre, total chaos. So should there be some type of evaluation on the teachers that are carrying a gun to make sure that they're mentally sound? That I believe. But as far as having guns in the school, the teachers having guns, I have no issue with that. We have people with guns in the street all day, every day.
Yes. My firm position on this is I see the possibility of a fence being okay. I'm back on the fence. I'm back on the fence.
Well, brother, it's not a physical thing. This is a mental thing. And so you can put all the
and so how are you going to totally guard against a mental thing?
It's like my grandmother used to tell us. They grew up in the country. When they grew up, they left their doors open at night. They could go to sleep, and it's because it's the mentality of the people around that they felt safe. Because why? Everybody knows everybody. Nobody's going to come here and take anything from me. So the mentality, the fence is not changing the mindset. We have to change the mindset through education. Fence is not going to help, because a door is only for honest people. That's what I was taught when I grew up.
Brother Lawrence, what you say about all this?
First of all, I have some agreement on both sides in terms of what Brother Houston spoke about in terms of it's a decision concept, but it stems from the environment. I was going to say historically, if you were having these kinds of incidents in our schools in the 50s, we would have remedied the problem by now. So they weren't there in the 50s. They weren't there even during the segregation years. We didn't have these kinds of shootings. So there is a new way of thinking about what the purpose of a gun is today. If we talk about when we were able to carry guns, what was its purpose? As you said, to protect us against the government. If that was its purpose, it's gotten beyond its original purpose, so we need to rethink how we issue out our ammunition today. Okay. We weren't talking about assault weapons, we were talking about muskets and things of that nature, one shot at a time. And so we as a body of individuals who want to take care of our future have to think into the future and not what we acquired in our past. Using our past as a base, but recognizing that the mindset of our citizens today, via the information that comes in through music, television, is creating a much more violent, retaliatory kind of society. So we need to think about that, not just throw it out because of the rights we have, but think about safety first over the rights. The fence, as I'll go back to Brother Alexander, every black school when I grew up had a fence around it, including barbed wire. But it was not to keep out a shooter, it was to keep you out of the cafeteria from stealing the food over the weekend. So two totally different purposes. So when I served as principal, they asked me to take the barbed wire down off the fence because it looked like a penitentiary versus an institution of higher learning. And I disagreed for a while because I was thinking about keeping people out. But I realized after we took the barbed wire down, we didn't have an incident with somebody coming over the fence to do something to the school. So the fence was always a deterrent in the community. And it's not the answer to the present day situation. I'm more in line with Ms. Murray as it talks about what can we do inside the building. As we enter the building, we've already increased our security by using video cameras. We've already increased our security by having police departments in school districts that did not have police. They had maybe one security guard when we were in school. So we recognize that somebody has to be on that campus that can stop a perpetrator that is dangerous. So I'm leaning towards an understanding of an official on that campus that would have that assignment, but I wouldn't give it wholeheartedly to somebody who certified themselves somewhere and say, okay, now you can do whatever you will to protect your life. I think we have to have some structure in place. But I do agree that we need to come sit down and think and make good decisions.
You all are all talking about a rational world where, you know, step by step, everything goes according to plan. Most of these incidents have happened because somebody devolved to a certain mental state of craziness. To a certain extent, there's, in a rational situation, it would not have helped, in my opinion. Let me finish. So my bottom line is, in the way things are going, the public school system will probably not be here in, let's have about 5 or 6 more school shootings. The public school system is going to be changed to a private school system or a home school system if we don't do something that is going to more secure our students. Because people are not going to put up with this kind of stuff too much. Teachers are not going to put up with it too much. So I don't take the rational claim as much. I don't take the rational claim. I think we need to go a little bit more drastic. And I go back to the fence. I do go back to the fence. But I also say, why do we have to have assault weapons? Why does it have to be legal? You know, I can see so many different things happening in the school from arming teachers and so forth. But I do say this, if I was one of those teachers that, you know, somebody came in on, I would like to have a way to defend myself. So, I mean, the argument is that teachers are, you know, we're not stable enough. We're just as stable as anybody else. Yeah, we're just as stable as any. There's crazy police officers. There's crazy people in the military. So, I mean, we're just as stable as anybody else in that kind of situation. Now, the whole thing is that we wish it didn't come to that. But if we're going to have an environment where we think it's going to be a rational environment, we got to have an irrational circumstances in there. Yes, ma'am.
But we know that let's be real.
Okay, let's be real.
You have these young kids having access to guns. Look, I don't have a problem with guns. I'm a member of the NRA. I have no problem with that. But I, as a teacher, should not be able to get an assault rifle. If I'm getting one, you better think, wait a minute, what's going on with this teacher? She has an assault rifle? So how was this kid able to get this gun? That was my whole concern. How was that?
In that situation, that was a crazy situation that the people he stayed with gave it to him and let him parade around with it. So, you know, that was, like I say, you have circumstances that are not rational.
And I understand, you
And
got.
you got to plan for those non-rational circumstances.
And how do you plan that? You already have mechanisms in place to ensure that if someone is crazy, is coming on campus, you have everything ready for that. You got to have the proper infrastructure. That's just the bottom line. And we don't have that. It happened at a Caucasian school, as you said. Why? Because they never thought that that would happen. So what should they have done? They should have had an infrastructure for that, because it's happening all over now. But we just sitting there having visuals, praying and hoping. No, you gotta take a proactive stance, and they're not doing that. Period.
I understand. Okay, we're going to go to a couple of other. Do you have a final point on that, Brother Lawrence?
Yes, sir. I want you talked about the word irrational.
Yes, I did.
And in your home, in anything you do in life, you don't make decisions through fear. You don't make decisions through fear. Even though we think this is an epidemic, in Texas alone, we have 1,285 school districts. How many of those districts have experienced this kind of incident?
Absolutely.
Very few. So we're not in the state of emergency, but we are recognizing that children are growing up with mental trauma.
Yes.
So we have to get to the root of the situation, which is back to what Brother Houston said. How do we think? When we approached the school years ago, you approached it with reverence, recognizing that this was the pathway to your future. Now, it's not going to stop a person who is deranged, so we do put in the metal detectors. We do put people on campus who are armed and equipped to handle those kinds of situations, but we don't turn the institution into a situation where we're peering out of the window all day wondering if somebody's coming.
Yes.
We're here to teach, we're here to learn, we're here to be in a safe environment, we're here to explore, but we don't make decisions out of fear, we make them out of our intelligence.
Okay, Brother Warren, we're going to have one more comment on that. Then we're going to go to something else as far as dealing with politics and policy and different things. Yes, sir.
Well, again, it goes back to, I'm surprised how well we are agreeing up in here. Because we was on this side of the fence, we was going to be, but nevertheless, I'm agreeing with a lot of points that I'm hearing. Basically, it comes back to, and you just inject some spiritual wisdom into that, brother, which me and you on the same level. There are 7 principles, 7 laws of nature, which I discussed in my class, the People's Law Study Group, in which I teach legal, teach law. And the first thing I teach is natural law before we get all off into the judicial system, because what I want people to understand is this. If you don't know these laws that exist in the universe, you are violating them, and when you violate them, if you don't discipline yourself, then someone else will discipline you for you. So as you talk about the opposite side of fear, the opposite side of wisdom, or you go to that of fear, there has to be a balance. There's a thing called the law of polarity, which says that everything has an opposite. I don't care what you find in this world, there's going to be an opposite to it. Then you also have to understand the law of correspondence. The law of correspondence is, as above, so below. So therefore, what the things that you are speaking, are you speaking because that's what's really happening in the universe, or are you speaking because that's what's happening into you? A lot of times we send things out into the world, into the universe, and when it comes back to us, we don't understand these are the things that we are projecting out. The first law of nature is the law of mentalism, which states that everything starts in the mind. Okay, we sitting here in the studio, you have a table, you have mics. Somebody had to see this stuff in their mind before they brought it out into the physical existence. So this is the same thing I'm saying. When we start preaching and teaching doom and gloom, is that really what's happening, or is that what's being reflected in us? Education is what we need to push more than anything. That's my comment.
Sounds good. Sounds good. It sounds good. Okay, we had a very lively discussion about that. My next thing I want to talk about is, well, there was a bridge that fell down in Miami and so forth. That was all of a sudden somebody was riding under that bridge and then it fell down. Can you all imagine that? I know they had policies. They had different things. Ms. Murray, you are running for county commissioner, and those type of things, bridges and things, fall under your purview. What would be the process, and if something like that happened here, what would would go down?
Well, hopefully, what we would do is to make sure that our bridges and our freeways infrastructure are up to par. We would have to check to see about, when it was built and all of those different elements. And then ensure that we are keeping up or upkeeping those bridges as well. So
Can you go into more of what the county commissioner covers, and I know you're Brazoria County. Can you tell us what that covers and how somebody could come to you for assistance?
Basically, the county commissioners, we're just making, it's really about money, how we, policy allocating money in the different areas in which we're governed. We issue bonds, we do all of that. But basically, they would probably come to a meeting and let us know, hey, we're having some issues, I'm just gonna say, with my drainage. So we would, of course, get someone to verify it. We see that it's an issue, then we give the appropriate monies through our contractors, and they go fix it. And that's basically what we do. So it's about allocation of money, making sure that our constituents are getting what they have asked for.
And in Brazoria County, you did not have an opponent for the primary?
I didn't have an opponent for the primary, but I do have an opponent for the general election.
Okay, I won't ask you to mention who that particular person is.
I wasn't.
That's going to be November?
November the 6th.
November the 6th. Miss Arnetta Murray will be on the ballot.
The first African-American woman, excited.
Okay, say it again.
The first African-American woman in Brazoria County running for that position. I'm so excited.
That sounds great. We give her a hand. Okay, one question I want to ask also is, with all the difficulty with Democrat, Republican, at one time I was thinking about running on the Reform Party, then I changed my mind. What do you all think about, will there be another party, or will there be multiple parties? I heard John Kasich, for you all who may know who that is. He's the governor of Ohio. He's going to probably run for president this particular. He ran for president this past year against Trump, but he got out real quick. He said that he's going to push for more than two parties. Brother Warren, what you think about that?
Well, there's always a possibility, because the two parties we have now will burst out other parties.
Sure. Yeah.
But going back again to natural law, polarity. So any time you have a third party, the only thing the third party is going to do is probably split what's going on between the other parties.
I'm backing up. Polarity. Let me think of what that means. Polarity. Let me see. Different opposites. Okay.
Yes.
Polar opposites. Okay.
Yes, polar
Just making sure. All right. All right. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, it's always possible that another party may emerge, and that things may, because the only thing that is inevitable is change.
Sure.
And so we do change throughout time and history, but the foundation, the base, in my opinion, always stays the same.
Now, if my history is correct, President Lincoln back in 1860 was a Republican.
Yes.
And the Republican Party was the party before Kennedy that basically blacks looked to at that time.
The first person to run as a Republican was John C. Fremont.
Okay.
He ran as a Republican. He lost.
That was in New York, wasn't it? Or that was for president?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
The Republican Party was created out of abolitionists. It was created to stop slavery.
Okay.
And so the next person to run would be Abraham Lincoln. And he would win, he would go on from there, and of course the Civil War and things of that nature to stop slavery began to be pushed into existence. And of course from that we had the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which basically abolished slavery and gave African Americans the right to vote and things of that nature.
And somewhere along the line, the kind of the label, the designation, and who basically believes in Republicans and who believes in Democrats. Because I remember, according to history, Democrats were more of considered against.
The Democrats is the party of the KKK.
Yes,
And,
I didn't want to
Jim
say it
Crow.
like that.
Well, it is
Okay.
what it is, it's facts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not nothing that I'm
Mhm.
just making up, it is what it is.
Okay, well, we're going to have more discussion about our history of political parties and more discussion about the future of our political races here in Houston and here in Texas. We're on the Sourceseeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 station, internet station in the world. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We're on the Sourceseeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, #1 internet station in the world. We're talking with political candidates and consultants, and we're talking about things happening in the political world. And we have with us Miss Arnetta Murray, a county commissioner candidate, Brazoria County, Brother Lawrence Alvin Allen Jr. I must say I knew Alvin Allen Sr. Also, Brother Warren Houston from Know Thyself Radio and lawyer and so forth. And we're having a very, very interesting conversation. We were just talking about some of the history. And I wanted to go back to, okay, somewhere along the way things change. And I was talking about also third parties. There was a third party that happened, I believe, in the early 60s, where George Wallace was a part of that third party. And that around that time, late 50s, early 60s, is when, well, President Kennedy was a Democrat, and that's when a lot of African American people switched over to the Democratic Party, because before that time, no? Come back and tell me.
That's what a lot of people actually think.
Okay,
But the switch went back further than that. It goes back to Roosevelt.
okay,
Franklin D. Roosevelt. And a lot of African Americans switched over due to the benefits that started the social programs, the welfare programs that President Roosevelt put in place.
okay.
So that's actually when the switch actually started.
And that's
It
also
was a
when
slow
the Great
progress.
Depression was.
Right. And actually at that time, the whole social private program was not even really put in place for people of color.
Mhm.
But it just kind of morphed out that way, that we took advantage of it, and we are still here today.
Well, also in that time, if the regular, quote-unquote, economy and people were under the Great Depression, black people were under the
Well,
Great Depression.
black people did good under the Great Depression.
Okay.
Because a lot of us, we were not on the stock market.
Right,
at
right,
that
right.
time. So,
Mhm.
you know, as far as how we were living as opposed to having land and livestock and being able to grow our own vegetables and raise our own cattle, we were doing better than a lot of other Americans at that time.
Are we talking about,
As a whole.
okay, well, there were two trains of thought right there before Roosevelt. Even if you go back to Coolidge and some of the others, or the first Roosevelt, we talking about Booker T. Washington, we talking about W.E.B. Du Bois, and before them, Marcus Garvey and so forth. So all of those trains of thought came to play on the political realm as far as black people were a part of it. And so that's what started to shape our thought processes. Those three areas of thought started to shape our processes in the political area. Do you agree with that?
I'm a big fan of Booker T. Washington. I love his book on From Slavery,
Mhm.
and I talk about it a lot. Then you have Booker T, and then you have his nemesis during his day, which is W.B. Du Bois.
Mhm.
Through W.B. Du Bois, he was birthed the NAACP and all these things as far as the civil rights. But this was not the route that Booker T. Washington was taking.
Mhm.
In my opinion, as African Americans, Booker T. Washington gave us the blueprint for our situation. We have turned our backs on that blueprint. Booker T. Washington's solution for African Americans was education. And through education, once you learn that
And institutions.
institutions and education, right?
Mhm.
Because once you, basically, he was not really pushing civil rights at the time. He was considered a coon because of the Atlanta Compromise.
Well, if I may say, it came out much later than, after he had passed, all of the things that he was doing behind the scenes, his approach was, let me not put myself out there as a mark, but at the same time, I'm gonna make sure that we do progress, and maybe I'll be silent about it. But at the same time, that kind of approach may have hastened the illnesses and things because he was not able to be as open as he wanted to. I want to finish this point, and then I want to get into other areas. W.E.B. Du Bois also said that, you know, he had wished that he had not been as much of a nemesis and they could have worked together. He said that, you know, he lived till 90 years old, I believe, and he said, you know, I wish I did another approach because I could have appreciated much more what that brother did and helped us all to grow. I'm not quoting him exactly, but that was the sentiment that he gave. On the other areas of politics, as far as what we followed, now when we had Obama in office, that gave a lot of people positivity, of course. That gave a lot of people positivity. Now, some people complained that he was not able to accomplish a whole lot, but he accomplished in a way of imagery, in a way of understanding, and in a way of psychological growth, more than so many other type of accomplishments could have done. Because now a young boy in Tanzania, a young boy in New York, a young boy in Paris, a young boy in Jakarta believe that maybe one day they can be president of a country. He gave that kind of uplift. What do you say about that, Brother Lawrence?
As I'm listening to the conversation, I really and truly want to make sure that I tailor my comments because we have a public that's listening. But if I was not in the public, I would think that we were crazy in this room.
Okay.
Ever stating that black people were doing good is crazy. Doing better than they did the day before might be accurate.
Okay.
As a people, it has never been good. If we start talking about politics and the Republicans and the Democrats, circumstances and situations by which one is able to make a proper decision based on the format that's presented to them has never been the mechanism by which we made decisions about which party we were going to follow. So I cannot say...
Can you break that down just a little bit more?
I cannot say to you that we did our homework before we chose the party.
Okay.
I'm not going to go back to a particular era and say it was better then, better now. But it is evident that on March the 6th, 2018, we had a primary election with less than 5% of the populace participating. That says dissatisfaction is everywhere for politics.
Mm-hmm.
And so for one who wants to be a politician, you have to understand that as you go into that system, it's already rejected by 95% of the population, but you have to have a heart to serve the 95% that's not participating, whether they're Democrat or Republican, because the 95% is the third party. It's the party that's not participating.
Yeah.
That is the real protest, not the one who elected you, but what kind of service are you going to provide? Are you afraid of your party to make the kinds of decisions that you know that needs to be made? If you make a decision that goes against the general concept of the 5% party, are you really willing to stand up in the House, in Congress, in wherever you are, and make decisions and get voted out if necessary, versus making decisions to make that 5% happy only to stay in? That is a House Negro, if he's in that party, voting on either side to stay in the House versus making decisions for the 95% that's outside the House.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying basically we as black people, basically, we can grab a hold to a label, but basically we should be independent in spirit. Is that what you're saying?
Have rejected politics almost 100%.
Okay.
I'm not saying it does not have a place and value, But what I'm saying is those who go in the system, like myself, who serve as a political elected official, must take the thinking of the 95% that's not in the D or the R.
Okay.
And relieve the people of the dissatisfaction, not play games with those who are in the 5% to keep a position.
Okay.
Okay? Because the 5% can keep you in the position, the 95%, they don't participate, so they can't help you anyway. But if you're going to make the kinds of decisions that are going to keep people from shooting our children down in school, if you're going to kind of make the kinds of decisions, because they're financial decisions about the infrastructure of our community or our county, then you're going to have to make some decisions that rub some people in your party the wrong way, whether that's Democrat or Republican. So I'm saying to you, who are you? Not what party are you in, but who are you?
Well, me personally, I'm of a small community of basically the circle, Barutti Carl Alexander circle, so that me and my family will be best taken care of. Now, I can be a Democrat or I can be a Republican, but the most important thing is I believe I'm for the progress of my people, my race, and my loved ones. And I think if we start in that particular circle, then we can all progress. But at the same time, we got to get away from the crabs in the barrel kind of syndrome. Because if you are progressing and I want to take your position, and in my opinion, there's enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody where we wouldn't have to fight against each other. Yes, Brother Warren.
First of all, let me interject and say that when I made my comment that we were doing better, I didn't mean in the fact that we were just doing good and everything was hunky-dory. What I'm saying, based on a financial and economical fashion during that time, we were in a better position than white folks during the Depression. That's what I want. Let me clear that up, first of all. Because we have had our share of ups and downs in America. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. But going back again, as far as whether we want to consider somebody to be a house Negro or a field Negro, somebody has to stand up and reject whether the 95%, because the way I've always looked at it, you cannot not participate in something and then get upset or get angry because of the way it's turned out and the way it goes. Right, so
that's true.
If you are in the community, everybody has to take it up on themselves. We have to first understand why the United States was set up and how it was set up. It was set up, this was really set up as a corporation. And the reason why you have so many people as a melting pot is because people came off from up under other countries where they had restrictions on them, where they could come and do whatever they pleased to build a life that was suitable for them, as long as they didn't violate or step on somebody else's toes. But if we keep teaching people that we're this and we're that, and we keep them focusing on the negative aspect instead of standing up from a positive aspect and showing, look, you can do this in your community, you can build this in your community. You don't have to sit around and wait on the government. This wasn't the way this thing was set up. The definition of employer and employee, we're talking about seeking jobs. I'm telling about people about building communities and building and creating jobs. Because when you look at the definition of employee and employer, the definition itself is master-servant. An employee is a servant, which is equal to a slave. Who gets taxed the hardest? The employee. So the country is set up for people with businesses, and then it's set up from that point that the more you make, you have to do something with that money to keep from giving it back to the government. So what I'll do at this point, I'll give the money donated to charities to help stimulate the economy. This is what this thing is about. It is more about finance and economics than it is about race. Race is a byproduct of it.
One of the things we decided we would have was a spiritual conversation. And if we're not going to look out for the least and the last of them, whether they participate or not, we already off our spiritual base. And what I'm saying to you is that I fully understand and actually agree with you for those who are capable of carrying out that dictate. We always will have a lesser employed people. We will have employees, and we will always have people who own the business. But it is the mindset of the business owner that we are talking about. So when he's looking out for the servant, when he's looking out for the employee, it is an approach where you recognize he needs to earn a wage to take care of his family and not be in poverty and work for you the rest of their life, and you go on and multiply your riches. That's a mind set. That's all I'm saying. It's a mindset of greed. So if we have a spiritual conversation about it, and we're talking about politics, I think we came in to talk about politics and the parties. It's simple to me that you can engage with a party because the constituency in an area has a greater amount of thinking around the common agreement in the party. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. But you still must be an individual inside the party that recognizes that you have a higher power to answer to. That's all I'm saying. And as black people, we recognize we actually answer to the higher power first, whether I'm voted in or whether I'm voted out. That's all I'm saying.
Most definitely. I just want to say that this has to be a conversation bigger than just politics, because of course politics covers every area of our life. Somebody has to vote for that. Somebody has to, man that particular position or so forth. So it's a much bigger thing, and especially in our communities, it's a bigger thing, because we have more needs. We have more people to look up to help us, and so forth. Also, I want to say this. It has been said that black people in America have maybe the 8th largest economy in the world. Have we heard that? Have y'all heard that?
1.3 trillion?
Yes. So we have so much resources, so much capability. I mean, what if 3 or 4 multi-billion-dollar basketball players just wanted to start a corporation? What if LeBron James wanted to run for governor of Ohio and, utilize his resources, his connections, and so forth? So there is so much potential. Now, politics is a vehicle that we have that works within their system. And of course, Obama has proven that we have the capability to get to the highest level in that particular realm. So it is a vehicle, but it's not the only vehicle. Of course, the number one vehicle for black people has been the ministry. You go back to, of course, Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, so forth, so on. That has been always our number one area of ascension and progress and so forth. Now, in this day and age, those type of things are changing. One, Obama changed it, but also entertainers and different people are starting to become more active. Anybody have any conversation on that?
Well, let me say this as it relates to people of color. My mentor, who's been a practicing attorney in the city for 30 years, he told me something as I got ready to go to law school that I wish today wasn't true. And he told me, he said, now, by the time you finish law school and you get your degree, he said, I want you to be very, very careful with our people and your family. I said, what do you mean? He said, because now you're going to start to look at them like the heathens. And I really didn't understand that until I finished. And why is that? Let's go back to the thing of polarity. Opposites. You have intellect. What's the opposite of intellect? Emotions. Energy and motion. Most of our people are emotional people. We just react. We haven't sit down and think about it. We haven't sit down and use our logic. We just react to a situation. We haven't done our research. And so this is why education is important. That if we can bring our people into balance through education, that's why I was in the community teaching law. And then, but the hard fact of dealing with that is some of the same people that you're trying to educate, because they're reacting on a emotional aspect, don't always understand it. And so there comes a problem, because you're trying to get them to see things from an intellectual aspect, from a logical. You got to think. Then you want to talk about the spiritual aspect. In the book of Genesis, the first thing God did, he began to speak. Okay? And that confirmed in the book of John. He said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that goes back to intellect. The things that we see in the book of Genesis was first Genesis 1 and 2. Genesis 1 deals with the creation. By the way, I used to be a minister as well. It deals with the creation. And chapter 2, I would always read that back and then. I'm like, well, why is it repeating the same thing in chapter 2 as repeating in chapter 1? But what I learned was that in chapter 1, it deals with the creation, it deals with the mind. chapter 2 deals with the formation actually coming into the physical. So we have to bring it to balance. We have to get off our emotional tip, and we have to educate and get people to thinking. And this is what I do not like about certain things in politics, to where I'm for lesser government, because the people should be able to think for themselves. Okay, do we need examples in place? Yes, we need examples in place. But we should allow people to be able to think for themselves, and not that if you don't need me, everything is going to fall and crumble and fall to pieces. I'm not with that, never have been.
Okay. I tend to think that we have the ability to cover all areas. Intellect, emotion.
Needs to be balanced.
Well, certainly. But
Anything that's not balanced is extreme.
we have somebody that can help us in all particular areas, and if we work as a collective or more of a collective, it'll never be totally where everybody's on the same page. But if we have circles, this circle here, strong, can help this circle here, strong, and a combination of circles can build a better progress. Well, before we go on, I want to go to the political campaigns that we have. Brother Allen, tell us, you are you on the ballot November 6th?
Yes, sir. I need one vote on November 6th. I intend to vote for myself.
Okay, so you're unopposed.
I'm unopposed on the Republican Party on November 6th.
Okay, well that's blessing. That's blessing. Miss Arnetta Murray.
Of course, I am not. I have an opponent. In the primary, I was unopposed.
Okay.
What I can say is, let me share this. I'm in a county that isn't favorable for African American people, as you
Okay.
know. And the thing that I want, you're right, to a degree we are emotional, but to a degree we feel like government isn't for us anyway, and that they don't care about us anyway. So the reason I, Arnetta Murray, an educator, wanted to run, to show those in Brazoria County that you matter, because the ones that's in the commissioner court is of a nature that less government, spend more money, no accountability. I want to make sure that those who pay their taxes, less money, and they don't make a lot of money, but you know that, you make less money, but we're still paying more taxes, that you do have a voice, that you do matter. So, yes, to a degree, we are emotional, but because of how they did President Obama, let's be honest, he did have an essence of hope, but let's be honest, he was disrespected, he was overlooked, and they did not care about his views. And he wanted to bring a bipartisan element. How do we do that now? How do we change that now? So my focus is, we need to educate our people. We need to, let me be real, at my church, and he knows this, my pastor galvanized behind me because he knew, guess what, somebody from a spiritual point of view is going to speak up, is going to make sure those, whether they're Republican or Democrat, have a voice. But as long as it's what? Of a, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be real, color perspective. So I think that, yeah, to a degree we're emotional, but to a degree we're evolving to know that, guess what, we are researching, we are working, and we got to just get out there and speak up. I'm done.
I still say the key is we have so many. We don't need to be just intellectual. We don't need to just be emotional. We are all of those particular things. We can. I mean, we have Mr. Dyson, who's plotting space and so forth. We have people who are the greatest cooks. We have people who are engineers. We have people across the board. So we just need to get more of those people together and build our little circles and connect our circles, and that is the approach that will help us to grow. Yes, sir.
My comment is this, and again, that's why education is important, because Ms. Murray was saying that she wants our people to know that they do have a voice, and that most of our people feel like the government don't care for us. Well, if we go back and look at education, we know that the Bill of Rights was put in because the founding forefathers didn't trust government either.
Absolutely.
So whether it be black or white, government is not to be trusted, okay? And so this is one of the things that you start talking about Republicans and Democrats, because Republicans were small government.
I just want to interject this. We are a part of government. We are part of the people. So now, that doesn't mean that we have a place always in there, and there were thousands of years or hundreds of years where we didn't have a great opportunity to have a part of. But the way that our Constitution is written, you know, we were able to say, hey, what about us? And so forth. And so eventually we've gotten more and more. But, you know, the statement that we're against government or so forth or so on, I think, you know, we have to find our way. We have to find our circle and to get our piece out of it the best way we can. Finish your comment, Brother Warren.
Well, that's, again, education teaches us that once we know the history, then we know how to think or how to feel about certain situations today. Like right now, I understand what government is all about. I don't need the government to love me.
No,
I'm not here for the government to love me. I am here in a capitalistic society, which gives me the opportunity to pave my own way and be just as progressive as I want to be and shoot for the stars. And if I can educate my community in that same mindset,
yes,
then
it goes back to mindset.
Let me interject.
Okay, we last comment.
I was in Turkey probably 6 years ago. I was with my mother. My mother took sick while we were in Turkey. She was admitted into the hospital in Turkey, taken care of by the finest physicians. She's an elected official. They took very good care of her, and we walked out of that country with the same bill that every citizen in that country would have walked out with, which was zero. Because taking care of the citizens is a zero-line budget item. So when we use language like health care or Obamacare, do we really care about the individuals that fall sick in our society? So we're talking government, we're talking politics, but I'm talking about, do we care about the people so when we make decisions, they benefit the people? I will forever take that to heart, that they took care of my mother and we left there with zero bill because her life mattered, not her circumstance, not her party, not her color, not her religion. Her life mattered to that country to have a doctor in the ambulance. They put a doctor in the ambulance, not a person who's a firefighter with some training, because they recognize that they need that level of expertise on the scene, not once you get there. And that's in every ambulance in Turkey. That's the kind of governmental thinking and systems. We need somebody to say that green means go and red means stop. That doesn't mean you tell me what to do tomorrow in turn to turn my economic portfolio around. There has to be somebody that's going to say we travel 55 or 75, because right now we're doing 95 and about to kill everybody on the highway. Somebody has to make some general decisions about how a society should run.
And that's what I want to get back to as we finish here. We have to finish up. I say, you know, that's a beautiful thing, but in our society it has become so individualistic where we have to start with our small circles and grow and connect those circles to have where we care in our circle, and then we can care about the next circle, because those outside the circle may not care. So we got to care about ourselves. All right, we're going to finish up here on the Sourceseeker Hour. I thank my guests, Brother Lawrence Alvin Allen Jr., Sister Arnetta Murray, County Commissioner candidate. Brother Lawrence is State Board of Education, Texas State Board of Education. Brother Warren Houston, Know Thyself radio show on the Sourceseeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 internet station in the world. We thank you very much. Sourceseeker is a community. We sell books, we write books, we make videos. If you're interested in getting involved with Sourceseeker, call us at 346-202-4963 or check us on the web, sourceseeker.net. We are around. Talk to us all the time. if you want to contact these individuals at any time, Brother Lawrence, can you tell us quickly how they can contact you?
Certainly, you can go on the TEA website and you can get in touch with me through the agency, or you can just call me on my cell phone, and it's visible right there on the website.
All right, Miss Arnetta Murray.
I have my website, votearnettamurray.com, or you can call me 281-650-4998.
Brother Warren.
Oh, wow. I have 3 websites, which is knowthyselfradio.net, therightsofimmigrants.com, and thepeopleslawstudy.com. And also can be reached at 346-217-0595, 346-217-0595.
I want to thank all my guests on the Sourceseeker Hour. We had a great show. Look forward to the next show. And if you want to, contact these great candidates and great political understandings. Everybody have a beautiful day. Everybody take care. Thank you. Bye.